understand what we are doing when we're doing something for ourselves, we also, in so many cases, are doing things for other people. You see, you can get everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And as I reflect on writing the book and losing the weight, you see, one of those was a career goal and one of them was a physical goal. But let me tell you what happened along the way. Never is there an individual goal. Every goal has buddies. Some of them are good. If they're good goals, they're bad if they're bad goals. For example, these were both good goals. As a result of writing the book and losing the weight, it improved, for example, my career in writing the book. It improved my financial life as a result of writing the book. It improved my social life. You'd be amazed at the number of invitations I get to go places because I've written a book, you know. It's amazing how so many of these things are tied together. But the one thing I got to keep referring back to is the fact that as you think about enjoying the prize, you got to understand that effort is required. Not once will you ever hear me, not only in the Born to Win course or the How to Stay Motivated series or any book I'll ever write or any recording I'll ever make or any speech I'll ever make, never once will I tell you that life is easy, because I don't believe it is. I believe it's tough. But I know to repeat myself, and I know that if you're tough on yourself, that life is going to be so much easier on you. Never will I forget, I think, one of the most important decisions I've made in the last 10 years. I came in one morning from the West Coast. I got to DFW at 2:55 a.m. I had had an horrendous day. And as I got home, by the time I got my car, got home, got dressed, ready for bed, it was straight up and down 4 o'clock. Now, the opportunity clock was set to get me up at 5:30 a.m., as had been my schedule during all of these months. And I looked at that watch, or that clock, and I looked at my watch, and I very quickly drew the inescapable conclusion that just 90 minutes from that moment, that clock was going to be sounding off enthusiastically to get me up. And I thought to myself, now, Ziglar, you are already tired. An hour and a half of sleep is absolutely not enough. Why don't you be realistic? Why don't you forget it this one morning and sleep in? You know you're not going to be as sharp, you're not going to be as alert, and the stuff you write at 5:30 in the morning can't be that good if you haven't had a reasonable amount of sleep. Man, what you need to do is get yourself some shut-eye. I mean, play it smart, Ziglar. And the more I thought about it, man, the better that sounded to me. And when it dawned on me what I was doing, I literally jumped for the clock, I pulled the plug, and at 5:30 the next morning, I got up, did my running, and started my writing. No, sir, I didn't want to get up by no stretch of imagination. Yes, I would have been better off had I slept until at least 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or even 10 o'clock, and probably would have gotten more done. Then you say, why did you get up? Very simple. I was within 1 month of reaching my objective. I knew, ladies and gentlemen, that if I gave in when this old body of mine was as tired as it was, that another week might come along, and after 5 hours of sleep, I would decide I deserved to sleep in that morning also. And then a few more days might go by, and I would decide, do I really want to get up at all? What I'm really saying is the time comes when you got to suck it up and tough it out and just hang in there. Life is not always easy, but I can say to you without batting an eyelash that I believe that that decision I made that morning has done more for me than almost any business decision I have made in the last 10 years. As a result of hanging in there when the going was tough, I believe I've been able to get more done in the last years than I've been able to get done in the previous 46 years of my life. You got to hang in there tough is what I'm really saying. Step number 6, if you want to reach your goals, then obviously, ladies and gentlemen, you must know how to train fleas. And so my question in this live presentation here in front of all of you folks, how many of you in this audience, and all I want you to do is be honest with me, how many of you do not know how to train fleas? Can I see your hands, please? Hey, you got here just in time. I know you heard the one about the 2 fleas at the bottom of the hill, and one of them says, well, do we walk or take a dog? But anyhow, you train fleas by putting them in a jar. And you put the top on the jar and you watch those fleas, and they'll jump up and they'll hit the top over and over and over and over and over and over. You watch them jump. And finally, after they've been jumping a long time, you will notice that even though they continue to jump, all of a sudden they are no longer jumping high enough to hit the top. Then it's an absolute fact. You can just take the top off of the jar and they'll keep on jumping and jumping and jumping and jumping, but they cannot, I repeat, cannot jump out. You see, they have conditioned themselves to jump just so high. And once they've conditioned themselves to jump just so high, that's all there is. There ain't no more. Man is the same way. He starts out in life to climb the mountain, to write the book, to break the record, to do something with his life. But along the way, he bumps his head, he stubs his toe, and he becomes what I call a SNIOP. Now that's spelled S-N-I-O-P. And that's a person who is susceptible to the negative influence of other people. For example, the 4-minute mile, everybody's familiar with that. For years, the athletes have said, hey, I'm going to run the 4-minute mile. But the coach would get his watch out and said, man, you can't do that. It's never been done. Nobody will ever be able to break that 4-minute barrier. The doctor would get his stethoscope out, and he'd put it on the athlete's heart and say, man, a 4-minute mile is out of the question, while your heart will come right out of your body. And for years and years and years, nobody could run a 4-minute mile until one day a flea trainer named Roger Bannister came along and he ran the 4-minute mile. Now when Bannister ran the 4-minute mile, it wasn't long before athletes all over the world started running the mile in less than 4 minutes. As a matter of fact, Landy of Australia ran it less than 6 weeks later. At this time, there have been 4 different occasions where as many as 8 young men in the same race ran a mile in less than 4 minutes. A 37-year-old man has run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Over 500 different people at this time have run a mile in less than 4 minutes. Not because man has gotten that much faster, but because they understood that the 4-minute mile was not a physical barrier. It was a psychological barrier. And once that psychological barrier had been broken, one did it, then later somebody else did it, then later somebody else did it, and later somebody else did it. Now, in case you have missed the point, a flea trainer is a person who jumps out of the jar. A flea trainer is a person who is driven from within. A flea trainer is an individual not influenced by the SNIOPs of life and the negative forces of life, but rather they decide for themselves what they're going to do. They understand that you can get everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. Flea trainers don't tell other people where to get off, they show them how to get on. A flea trainer doesn't try to see through people. A flea trainer sees people through. If you're going to reach the objectives you have in life, yes, it's absolutely true that you must be a flea trainer. Step number 7, if you are going to reach your goals, then you've obviously got to keep a winning attitude. Now,